Okay, so I'm Bets Peters, and that's me up there dumping a bucket of ice water over my head. Like many other people over the past few months, I participated in the Ice Bucket Challenge to help raise money and awareness for the ALS Association. It's a cause that's near and dear to me, as I've worked with people with ALS and their families for many years as a clinical speech-language pathologist and now as a researcher. And while the Ice Bucket Challenge lasted for a few amazing awareness-building weeks, the challenges of ALS last a lifetime, which for people with ALS is about 2 to 5 years after diagnosis. My work has focused on challenges related to communication. ALS affects speech, so many people with the disease use an alternative form of communication, like Stephen Hawking's computer. It also affects physical functioning, leaving people unable to write or to type with their hands. Sticking with our ICE theme, you can think of a person with severe speech and physical impairments like an iceberg. When you first meet someone with advanced ALS, you'll notice that they look different from you. They might use a wheelchair, they might rely on a ventilator to breathe, they might have a special computer to talk for them. And you might not be sure how to communicate with this person. It's going to take more time and more patience than the average conversation. But all you're seeing is the tip of the iceberg. If you don't take the time to communicate, to go below the surface and see the whole person, you're missing all the beauty and complexity of this other human being. Some people with advanced ALS progress to a locked-in state in which all voluntary motor function is lost. At this point, they can't even blink to answer yes or no questions. It's as if all the water around the iceberg has frozen, and there's no longer any way to get below the surface and get to who that person really is. So this can also happen to people who've had brainstem strokes, severe traumatic brain injuries, or spinal cord injuries, and other conditions. So how can we get below the surface? How can we break through the ice and communicate with these people? I'm part of a research team led by Dr. Melanie Friedoken at OHSU that's trying to answer this question. We're developing a brain-computer interface, or BCI, that will allow people with locked-in syndrome to communicate using only their brain waves. Here's how it works. The person wears an EEG cap and sits in front of a computer that's displaying letters quickly one at a time. The computer is monitoring the brain signals and looking at the response to each letter. So when the person sees the letter they want, their brain goes, yes, that one, and there's a little spike in the brain signal. The computer can see that, it interprets it as a keystroke, and then types that letter on the screen. The system is looking for something called a P300 response, which is a positive change in your brain signal, P for positive, that occurs about 300 milliseconds after a unique stimulus. So what do I mean by a unique stimulus? Let's say you're looking at a series of images. You see potato, 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 parakeet. When you see the parakeet, your brain goes, whoa, what was that? You know, that's something new. And that's the P300, that little moment when your brain sees something different. On EEG, it looks something like this. The red line represents the reaction to the repetitive, boring stimulus, the potato. The green line with that little spike around 300 milliseconds, that's your P300. And it turns out we can use that response for typing. Instead of a series of images, we show a series of letters. And what makes one letter unique and interesting to elicit that P300 response is what you're trying to spell. If you want to spell potato or parakeet, you're looking for the P, and you don't care about the M, the Q, the H, anything else. I have some slides set up so you all can try this for yourself. You're going to see a red fixation cross in the center of the screen, followed by a series of white letters. And I want you to look for the letter P as the letters are flashing. Here we go. Okay, did everybody see the P? All right, so hopefully you had a nice, beautiful P300 response. Our computer would have detected that, seen it as a keystroke, and typed the P up on the screen as you see. So even though these letters are flashing really quickly, this is still a slow and tedious way to type something out. But if you have no other way to communicate, it's going to be life-changing. So eventually, BCI will allow people with locked-in syndrome to ask their husband to bring Aunt Judy's favorite potato salad to the barbecue, or discuss buying a pet parakeet for a grandchild's birthday. All those mundane things that you and I take for granted talking about every day. It'll also allow them to communicate with healthcare providers to be in charge of their own care and their own medical decisions. We've been using this technology for several years with our research participants with disabilities, and we're continuing to refine it to work with more and more people. We hope that one day soon, we'll be able to unlock the locked-in. In the meantime, there's something that all of you can do starting right now. The next time you meet a person with a communication impairment, someone whose speech is slurred or who uses an alternative method of communication, have the patience to talk with them. Take the time to go beyond your first impression, get below the surface, and see the whole person. You might have a fascinating conversation, you might make a friend. As a physician, you might understand what's really bothering them. At the very least, you can listen and let them be heard. Thank you.